Hey, folks, in this episode of Chief Relationship Marketer, we're going to talk about customer service mindset approach and how it's the game changer for your marketing and the results it achieves. So, the big question is this: how can marketing leaders at small to mid sized companies break through all of the marketplace chaos, noise, and competition to execute differentiated marketing that connects with buyers on a human level, building real meaningful relationships at every stage of the buyer's journey, while at the same time generating measurable results that elevate their organizations and their careers to new heights? That is the question, and this show will give you the answers. My name is Frank Coel, and welcome to the Chief Relationship Marketer Show. Folks, you know the challenge with most marketing? The challenge with most marketing is that it tries to behave like selling. And the reason this is a problem is if you look at your total addressable market, at any given time, only about 5% of your total addressable market is actually in market. That means your marketing is being addressed to the 95% of the crowd who's not in market. And this is a problem. This is very incongruent. If you think about that 95%, they're doing things like trying to understand what their problem is. They're trying to define it and even know if they have a problem. They're then doing research to find out what are different ways to solve this problem. What paths can I go down? And then finally, once they choose a path, then they're trying to figure out who can help me go down this path. And that final stage, that buying stage, is what we would call bottom of the funnel or decision stage. And that's fine to address those folks. You definitely want to capture as many of those, what I call ready nows, as possible. But what are you doing to capture the other 95% of your total addressable market that is not in market? So that way you're meaningful to them and your marketing doesn't fall on deaf ears. So, in order to be relevant to those folks, we're going to have to think a bit different about what marketing is supposed to do for your organization. All right, so how do you become relevant to the 95% of your TAM when currently your marketing is really only addressing the 5% that are in market? How do you do that? What I want you to do is I want you to apply what's called a customer service mindset approach. I want you to think of everyone in that 95% as already being customers. And they may not pay you yet with money, but they are going to pay you with their attention, which today is very valuable. It's a form of currency to your organization. And I want you to look at that 95%, and in thinking of them as customers, I want you to serve them as if they are already customers. I want you to serve them rather than pitch to them. So, how are you going to do that? Well, if you listen to my past episode on hyper specificity, we're going to kind of bring that back. Here's what I want you to do: I want you to think about how you can serve through content and give them value and education and help them independent of them doing business with you. I want you to think about that person and the problem they have. I want you to think about the different relationship rungs on that relationship ladder that they have with your brand. And I want you to think about how can you help elevate them in what they're doing, again, independent of them doing business with you. I want you to think about your marketing is supposed to help them take steps up that ladder of their own ascension. And I want you to obsess about that journey. I want you to obsess about helping them because really, these folks are your customers. They just don't know it yet. And I want you to serve them as such. So, the reason this is important is because your brand can no longer take a pitchy promotional approach to marketing because buyers have more options than ever. I mean, if you think about the playbook pre internet, the typical marketing worked really well, right? It's interruption marketing. And buyers really needed to see those ads and they needed those interruptions because they didn't have a real great way of doing research and understanding what their options were. And over time, that efficacy waned, but it was pre-internet. It still worked pretty well. But today, if you think about in the internet-driven world, the thousands of messages we receive every day as consumers, whether we're buying a business offering or a consumer offering, we train ourselves to tune out all of those messages. And 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 that just is problematic when your marketing is really about pitching and selling when they're not in the mode of buying. Again, if you think about pre-internet, what buyers did back then is they would leverage sales reps as part of their research. Sales reps were valuable parts of that education and research. But now people can just find that information on their own. And so people are coming to you kind of pre-sold with their decisions and mostly made up. And so because of this reality that buyers are in full control and they have more options than ever, we can no longer take a pre-internet approach to marketing in an internet-driven world. So when you start taking this approach, what kinds of things start to happen? Well, let me just set the record straight. When you first start taking this approach in 30, 60, 90 days, you're not going to see just magically a flood of leads pouring in. But what will start to happen once you start this kind of approach and you start to be consistent with it? Here's what's going to happen. You're going to start to see the sales prospects that you have. They're going to start to ask less questions because you've already educated them before they started talking to you. You might even leverage this information during the sales process to preemptively address their concerns. And so you're going to end up with people that are pre-sold on doing business with you and will choose you at a higher rate because you start to stand out. Then over time, what will happen when you take this approach and more consistent? You'll then start to see another little lift. And it might be with your SEO, for example. The more consistent you are, the more you're going to attract more people into your website, your funnel. And the amount of new contacts that you're going to see that come into your world into your database, that will start to grow over time. And then eventually, if you're consistent with it, you'll start to see that you can now nurture these people and turn them into more and more sales opportunities. Ultimately, things will snowball. And so, like with any given effort in life, the consistency in this approach will help you get more out of it at the longer you do it with the same amount of input. It will start to become a lead generation machine for you. Now, there are a few pitfalls that I want to help you avoid when you start taking this kind of approach, especially if you haven't done this, especially if, let's say you work at a company where, the executive team is a bit old school in their approach and they want your marketing, to produce leads tomorrow. Like every campaign's got to produce leads the next day. And if they're not used to this approach, because this approach really is about building audience and brand and reputation and awareness in the early stages, I want to set some expectations. And one of the things that I think you'll find is it may feel odd at first, especially if you're not used to taking this approach. If you're used to promoting and pitching, and again, your executive team's used to doing things an old school way. And you might second guess what you're doing, but I want to encourage you to keep moving, keep taking this approach, because this is the only way you're going to create meaning and relevance with your audience. That, again, that 95% that's not in market. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to be patient, because this is not about a new campaign, a new idea for a campaign. This is really about taking a completely different approach to marketing. So it's going to take time. Also, make sure you set that as an expectation. And then the other expectation that I want to set here is that you might start to get pushback from different folks within your organization as you start to share from an educational point of view and you start to teach people how to solve their problems through your quote unquote marketing. You might get some people in your organization that want to pump the brakes and they are scared because you're now giving away all of the quote unquote secret sauce. What I want you to understand is that's a normal, natural reaction to people who are not used to marketing in a post-internet world. And I want you to placate their fears, and I want you to show them how other organizations do it. And I want you to show them the kind of engagement you're getting when you do this. I want you to stay close with the sales team. I want you to ask questions. I want you to make sure that the sales team is leveraging this content, leveraging this information, and get the feedback from them based on their prospects and the kinds of questions their prospects are asking, and if this information is making the sales process easier. So I want you to stay really close with sales. I want you to be mindful that you might have some executives or maybe some of your engineering staff or whoever it might be. They might get a little scared that you're giving away all the quote unquote secret sauce. But the reality is that the folks that might attempt to do what you folks do are probably not your ideal fit clients anyway. The folks that are interested in this education that are a good fit, they're going to read that and realize that you folks are the experts and you're the ones they should hire to execute on whatever problem is they're trying to solve. So ultimately, really taking a customer service mindset approach is a lot like a lifestyle choice. You're choosing a different marketing lifestyle to move forward with and change how you engage the marketplace and how you grow your brand and business. All right. So what can you do today? What can you do to start taking action and put a customer service mindset approach into your marketing today? Well, let's talk about one little exercise that I can give you that you can do if you're not used to taking this approach. What I want you to do is I want you to first start with one persona, a persona that you want to engage with, you're used to engaging with. It's a persona that your company serves really well. And I want you to start with that one persona. And I want you to write down who that persona is. And then I want you to write down what's the number one goal that they have? What are they trying to achieve? What do they want more than anything else as it relates to their job and what you can help them do? And then juxtaposed against that, I want you to write down what's the biggest pain point they have towards trying to achieve that goal? What is that big roadblock? What's the big thing that they can't figure out? What's standing in their way? Three things. Who's the person? What's their goal? And what's standing in their way? Just write that down. And then what I want you to do is I want you to develop one piece of content that truly helps them, that doesn't sell to them. I want you to help them as if you had nothing to sell them. Let's just pretend you didn't have anything to sell and you met this person at a party, but you have all this knowledge and you have all this experience. I want you to tell them step by step on what they can do to start solving that problem. Now, what that might mean is if you have a very technical way of solving that problem, you might need to do a, 5-step, high level, more strategic approach to solving the problem. But I want you to write out 5 steps, let's say, 5 steps to solving that problem. How do you make that go away? And take the role of teacher, take the role of professor and educator, and I want you to help them as if you had nothing to sell them. So don't like try to weave in like, here's how you prepare an audit to send to us and we can, and whatever else you might want to generate a lead. Don't try to make it a sales pitch in disguise. I want you to truly help them and create that piece. Don't worry about how pretty that piece is. Don't worry about how perfect it is. Don't worry if the grammar's perfect or not. Don't worry if there's pretty pictures. I just want you to help. That's all I want you to do. Just help. And if you could read that and say, you know what, this is helpful. This is really helpful. Then you've got a good piece. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to publish that on your website under your blog, let's say. Next thing I want you to do is I want you to email your database. Let your database know about this new content. And then finally, I want you to share it on your socials like LinkedIn. All right. And then once you do that, just get in the habit of doing this. If you can commit to it once a month, then start doing it once a month. You're going to do the same exact process once a month. If you can do it more, you can do it weekly. Fantastic. You can do it daily. Amazing. Whatever it is, I want you to commit to doing something on a consistent basis, because just doing it once is about the exercise of showing you what it looks like. But doing it consistently is what's going to change the game for you. And if you're not used to taking a customer service mindset approach, this is a very powerful first step to get you primed into that habit and that consistency. And I guarantee you, you're going to be shocked by the engagement you'll receive on pieces like this. All right, folks, if you really love today's show, do me a favor, like, share, comment. Let me know if you've developed a piece of customer service mindset content where you've applied that approach. Drop it in the comments and I'll go take a look at it. If you have questions about how you've done it and if you've done a good job on it, or you just want my opinion, drop it in the comments below. Would love to go take a look and check out what you're doing. But go out and take action today. Until then, we'll see you on the next episode of Chief Relationship Marketer. For more Chief Relationship Marketer content, episodes, and more, visit chiefrelationshipmarketer.com.